Hello, welcome to the Reasonably Effective Podcast, a place where we have some casual talk about playing the Pokemon TCG, brought to you by myself, Uncommon Fossil, and 10 types.
Yep. Hello, everyone. And I guess the big news this week was that Temporal Forces dropped on live, and it is out, and that
Hmm.
was kind of
Yes.
fun. I've been playing a lot. In Uncommon Fossil, you have some updates about live as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, first it did drop, and it's you can be having fun, but fortunately, we're able to log in. Right, there are those that now with the new update can't log in, as always happens. But that is what it is, right? We have rotation, new starter decks, all that, but we knew they were going to update the ranked ladder, and they did it in a very big fashion, right? That's what we want to talk about for a minute. So it generally the hardest. I have a video, so I'm not going to get into all the details on it, but actually the hardest of the leagues, you went Quick League, Poke League, Great League, into Ultra Master to Arceus, and Great League actually was the toughest league to advance out of, which wasn't good
Wait,
design on
it
their
was?
part.
I thought it was. So the
It took the most wins to get through it.
okay.
What like one of the things I looked at, if I won every game, how many game without a loss, how many games would I have to play to like advance through things? And I took the most wins in Great League, even more than Ultra and Master League,
Okay.
which I
And if
which I
you won in Ultra League versus lost, like what was the difference? Was it the same? Was it
once
like
you got to Great League, it was 20 points for a win, lose 20 points for a loss, and that stayed the same. So it made progress tough, right? It was you weren't going to get a lot more wins than losses, even as a pretty good player for the most part.
Yeah, I don't think I've known essentially anyone in Master League, which is the highest outside of like Arceus, which is part of Master League. I knew a few
Right.
people who would occasionally, and I would occasionally get to Ultra League, but you need to
Yeah.
be pretty good and like grind and get like lucky, and so it just wasn't super fun.
And you had to play strong decks all the time because the losses just took you down a lot. The other thing that they introduced or kind of reintroduced is a win streak bonus. PTCGO had that on its ladder. Live didn't, but they put that back in. I guess you generally get 20 points for a game in a win streak. I think it might be 3.3 games in a row, but I'm not positive on that. So what they did now with the revamp is all the leagues from Quick League up to Master League, you get 10 more points for a win than you lose for a loss. The number of points for a win changes, but you always get 10 more points for a win than a loss. So just grinding away, you're guaranteed you'll make progress, right? Even if you go 500, win 50% of your games, you will make progress. In fact, I took a look at the numbers. If you start with 0 points, if you play 324 games in a month, you will get to Arceus League. It doesn't and actually, if you you'll probably do it faster because things will cluster. You'll get some win streak bonuses along the way. But so 11 games a day, that's a lot. But don't forget, even if you don't do it in 1 month, you move back like one tier a month. So after a couple of months, if you just play a decent amount, win half your games, you will get to Arceus League.
Yeah. Oh, and as you said, you move back when like the new month
Yeah.
happens. But this month, they actually, as you said, they restructured everything. So the point
Yes.
thresholds are also lower. So I moved
Hmm.
up a tier when
Your points
I,
went down, but you're a higher tier, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so they lowered the points a fair amount, and more so for the lower tiers, which is a good thing. You want to give those new players because the way it was before for a brand new player, and they're not going to win as much anyway. But they had to get 20 wins to move from Quick League, the starter one, up to Poke League, and that's an awful lot to ask for from a new player. Now you need 4 wins, which is I think you want to make people feel good early on.
Yeah, because it's literally baby league. All the Pokemon are just baby Pokemon, and like being in there. Obviously, as a newer player, you should like learn the game and stuff, but you don't want it to have to like drag as you're kind of going through. It's not exactly a tutorial, but it's kind of like a tutorial.
Yeah, that new step, right? I mean, yeah, and part of what this is it's make you want we want new players to like the game. Now they got to make the game work. That's the biggest thing, unfortunately, and who knows about that. But you still want like the reward system for new players to feel good early on, so they keep coming back because we want the community to grow. So I'm glad that they made that adjustment. I'm really surprised though that even Master League one below Arceus, you still get more points for a win than a loss. I think probably that should have been maybe the same for a win and loss. Make it tough to make that last step, I would think. I think they've gone overly generous personally for it, the way they did things.
Yeah, I don't think it's like bad, but I think it's okay. I don't really care that much about the ranking. I've said this before. I've been like worried that the rank ladder makes people more toxic.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the case. Been getting a lot of concedes, like a lot of concedes. Pretty much all my games end in a concede by my opponent. I've also been winning a lot. I don't know why. Like, I mean, I know I do consider myself a pretty decent player, but um, like I've been winning probably like 80% of my games. I played a decent amount. I'm now in Ultra League. I started in like the bottom of Great League, and now I'm just in Ultra
Hmm.
League. So that I've been playing a bunch, but I don't know. I've just been maybe getting lucky, and my opponents have just been quitting a lot. And yeah. Also, there are some glitches. Some people said there was a glitch with Great Tusk, which is, as far as I know, incorrect. There
Yeah.
was not a glitch with Great Tusk. There's a glitch with the like decking out yourself with like cards.
This,
So if,
yeah.
not just supporters. I think if you try to Radiant Greninja with no cards in deck, I think the game freezes. I don't remember if that's what happens, or it might. I know it causes issues, but pretty much if you try to do something where you don't have enough cards in deck, the game will cause issues. And so that is the issue. The issue isn't, as far as I know, with Great Tusk itself. It's a glitch with the
Supporters, right, that don't
yeah,
work properly.
supporters, various things that get the top cards of your deck.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously they need to fix it as they do other things as well. Although, more mill is not a isn't the greatest thing to play against, but
Greatest Tusk.
the greatest Tusk, yeah. So, I've been having trouble, but I've been playing some of the starter decks. The mill decks have caused me trouble. Depending, I've found myself in awkward spots in
Yeah.
losing to them. But that is what it is, right? So anyway, I think that's enough on the ranked ladder, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and actually that's going to be enough for your temporal forces because we're going to talk about some new cards that were revealed or new sets, I guess. I think these might have
Yeah.
been revealed before our last podcast, but last podcast we were talking about temporal forces because that was on the horizons, on the
Right.
horizon. So yeah, today we're talking about three sets that are actually one set. The set is Twilight Masquerade, and the cards that are presumably going to be making it up. And yeah, so what cards do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, Twilight Masquerade, which comes from the Japanese sets Crimson Haze and Mask of Change. So you wanted to start with Crimson. We'll start with Crimson Haze, the earlier set. So you want to hit the best card from her. You want me to? I'm going to go quickly through some of these other cards that you don't think are as good. There's Enhanced Hammers coming back. That's an old reprint, so you're probably familiar with that. It is, it's a good card.
It discards a
Potentially.
special energy from one of your opponent's Pokemon as an item as well, if you don't know what it does.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I was starting to call up. Yeah. So right now it's not that impactful, but at some point I imagine it will be. So it's just something to keep in mind. In expanded decks, it had a place in there for sure.
Yeah, I
Um,
think also in terms of special energy right now, Mist Energy is somewhat popular. And so if you
yeah.
are playing a deck like Roaring Moon, you could put an Enhanced Hammer to give yourself better like counters to counters.
Right. And then Lost Tina as well, right? So that you can use your.
Yeah, but that's only once per game, so it is meaningful, but it's not, in my opinion, as consistent or meaningful.
Correct. Now, yeah, Lost Zone's a better engine though. So if you played like one copy, you might actually have it the turn you need it more likely than the Roaring Moon deck, I would think.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's fair.
yeah. So I there is Perrin. I want to mention that supporter briefly. You think it's terrible based
I
on
mean,
our
I don't think
brief.
it's terrible, but I think it's bad.
It's a supporter. It's like playing two Pokemon communications, which if you're familiar with that card, you reveal two Pokemon from your hands. You have to have two. If you only have one, it
Up to
doesn't
two.
work. Oh,
No,
up
it's
to
up
two.
to, yeah.
Sorry. So
But you need at least
that's
one.
good. Yeah, and then you search your deck for up to that many Pokemon, reveal and put into your hand. You can get back the same card, but obviously the idea is getting two different cards, and having access to any two Pokemon on a turn is useful. So I think it's a card that'll see some play.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a big fan of this card. I feel like Pokemon
No.
search should just be on items. I know some people, there's like Jack or whatever, Jack with a
Yeah.
Q, and that sees some play in Lugia. I'm not a big fan of it though. I mean, I kind of get its value, but yeah, I'm not a big fan of this card because it's a supporter that does what I consider an item should do.
Yeah, but to do this, you need to play two Ultra Balls and discard four from hand to get the same effect, right? Which that's not is doable generally. So I think some decks in some situations may want probably just one copy of Perrin, maybe in a few decks. So it's not the
Maybe.
hugest thing. I know you think it's garbage and just tear it up and put it in the trash, but
Yeah.
so gonna talk about something that's clearly a busted card here for a minute, and this is Caretaker. So what this does, and we all know how terrible draw three supporters are. So this is a supporter that draws two instead. So now we're moving up on the world there. We're drawing two, but then if Community Center, which is a stadium, is in play, you put the supporter back into your deck, right? And then Community Center is a stadium, as I said. And once per turn, what it says on that is if a player already has played a supporter from their hand, they can heal 10 from each of their Pokemon. So, I mean, healing 10, I don't think Community Center of itself I'm not seeing a lot of value out of that. Maybe you disagree on that. But it's intriguing to me putting your Caretaker back into hand. And there's one obvious deck this goes in, or at least it
Well,
might
it's
go
into
in.
your
It could be
deck.
into your deck, right? Yeah, it goes into your deck, and that's the beauty of this. Because when I play my Claydol deck, which I can't have any supporters in the discard pile to use
Oh,
that ability, right? I accelerate
yeah.
fighting energy. That's just a very nice ability, right? Now I can play a supporter, a draw supporter in the deck, and that could potentially add some meaningful value to my Claydol deck.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah, I actually that seems kind of neat. The big issue is there's like trekking shoes, which is about as good. Um, not necessarily as good, but it's similar, and it's not a
Hmm.
supporter. And then also, you can't play Pokestop then. So, well, you can, but you need a bunch of
Correct.
this other stuff. It's interesting. I feel like draw two is kind of bad, like really bad. But that's an
It,
interesting thought. I did not go there.
see, you didn't go there. See that's what makes it interesting because it's that paired with the stadium. It goes back in the deck. So why do I want the supporter back in the deck? That's the question, right? And maybe there's some other interesting ideas. It's a quirky little combination. Again, maybe I'm going to try it. It probably doesn't work in that deck because once it's in your discard pile, I'm in a lot of trouble too. But anyway, that's my thought on that. And you don't want to talk more about that, I assume.
No, that's interesting though. That's pretty neat. Oh, I
Okay.
actually know
Yeah.
one other thing. Community Center. So,
Yes.
some of you may know of a quirky little card called Champions Festival, which is the world's promo,
Right.
which was not very good, but it's kind of similar to this. And I think that might be partially why they're printing this. Moonlit Hill was also kind of similar and printed for that reason, I believe, because it's essentially impossible to get Champions or yeah, Champions
Yeah.
Festival. I mean, you can
Right.
obviously, but it's most
It's a
people
very
don't have it.
limited.
And on live,
Right.
it's like for me, it's impossible to get because unless I pay money to buy a code, because I don't, or as far as I know, and this was the case for a while. I'm assuming it's still the case that you just can't craft it.
Right. It's not craftable and there's no trading. So, which in back of PTCGO, you could have made a trade with somebody for it. Now, right, you have to have a code that's not been redeemed to get it. So basically it's not accessible. So some stadiums that do similar things, it makes some sense.
Yeah, and that stadium will be rotating next year. But there was another one, another like different World Stadium that like gives Psyduck one less retreat or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're slowly making them worse over time.
Yeah, I mean they weren't very good. Then they saw some play, and I think they're trying to make them again just kind of collector's items, not cards to go in viable decks, which is a good thing, I think, all in all.
Yeah, I think we both said that we think making them alternate arts to existing cards that would be better and more logical. They have not done that
Yeah.
though.
No, and I guess maybe because it's obviously based on players, so they want it to be a different card in terms of what it does. But obviously, it's a very dangerous thing. I don't think you don't want to give the top players in the world access to cards to make their decks better than everyone else's. There, I think that's too much of an advantage there.
Yeah, I think it could be neat if it was like Professor's Research, Professor, I don't know, some other thing or some special art. Um, but anyway, it's not. So we have, I think, one more card to talk about from this set, which is Greninja
Right.
EX. And
Yes.
so it's a Terra EX. It's a stage 2 Greninja, but it uses water energy. But it is a
Yes.
fighting type Pokemon. Its first attack here, well, it does have the Terra rule, weak to Psychic, 1 retreat, 310 HP, pretty generic stats. But then the first attack
Yep.
here, Ninja Blade, 170 for 1 water. You may search your deck for any card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, that's very nice, right? Cards, attacks that let you search for a card or two cards are very good. And 170 is not, it's not a bad number, right? It, and we can do things to manipulate it potentially as well to boost the damage to get up to one-shotting, say, a multi-prize, a basic EX, let's say. So I like it's very intriguing. Attacks for 1 energy, so potentially healing options that it opens up that if you can heal and get rid of energy along the way. So I like it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We don't have Cheryl that rotated.
Yeah,
You do have Professor Terra's scenario, which is like decent, but because this is a stage 2, you'll need to rare candy again as well, or like
yeah.
evolve manually twice, so it'll take 3 turns, which is a little annoying, but I think it's pretty interesting. And the second attack
Hmm.
duplicates barrage, water colorless. Duplicates discard or duplicates barrage discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. It does 120 to your opponent's Pokemon.
And that's very good because we know Radiant Greninja doing 90 to 2 is a threat. Most decks is more of a threat than something you actually do just because you discard those energies, which we discarding 2 here again, very similar. And of course, we did 120 to 2 with Rapid Strike Urshifu VMAX, and that discarded all energy. So this one actually is better than that in terms it keeps at least 1 energy on it. So it's a very nice attack. It's a nice option. I think these two things make for a nice pair.
Yeah, I wonder how you power this up. You could use double turbo, but then you're doing 100 less twice,
Yeah,
so that's not ideal. I think, especially because 120 is good, it gets a barrel, and I mean it's a good amount of damage. It's a pretty good number, but
right.
yeah, I wonder you could do Bex Caliber as well. This could be like, and then the first attack
Hmm.
helps you set up and stuff. So I think I'd like it with Bex Caliber, but I don't know. What do you think? How would you play it?
A couple things. One, there's the A spec, the one that for stage 2 provides any 2 energies.
Oh yeah,
So you have 1 copy, but then that gets it to 2 energy attachments rather than 3, which is a plus. Yeah, and because it's 1 water, 2 colors, you could accelerate with anything that can accelerate any type of energy, right? And there are a few different options in the game right now, correct?
yeah. There's Bex Caliber. I don't know.
I,
I'm sure there's some other ones. I can't think of any. I can think of like Dark Patching, Electric Generator, and stuff, but those aren't to any type. Um,
right,
but there are ways.
right. I mean, obviously something like Claydol could do it, but you're probably not doing that. But because it's any, and you could make it in a Lost Zone deck, right? With Mirage Gate.
Yeah. I feel like it's a little awkward to do stage 2s in Lost Zone, but I know some people have done that and like it. I mean, there's the Charizard Lost Zone deck, or Charizard EX Lost Zone deck, which some people play. And there is a new energy, Boomerang energy, when it's discarded. It's colorless energy
Oh,
when it's
right.
discarded from an attack, it gets back. You can use that with
Hmm.
or with Greninja EX. I
Yep.
don't think it's very good. It's like it's still awkward to accelerate. I mean, I guess you could use Lugia.
Yeah. I think
Um,
with Lugia, and then you get the energies back. You have a lot to get it set up still. That's the problem.
yeah, and at that point, I feel like you don't really need the energies back anyway because you're accelerating all this energy.
I mean, that's
I mean, you'd play it
uh,
probably, but
right. I think you'd play it, and then you could always retreat it, send up something else, but you have that energy for later, right? You're damaged but not knocked out. You could send up something else that, a fresh one for the following turn and do some switching around to kind of
yeah. Although
slow down the
retreating
price
will
spread.
lose the energy.
Correct, but it's the
Yeah,
retreat cost is 1 on this, so losing 1's a lot better than losing 2.
yeah, definitely. I don't think you have much more to say about this though.
No, I mean, I like the first attack's really good. The second attack, the weak point, which you said is how do you get the energies on in the first place? But I think it gives good options.
Yeah, and one other thing, I actually made a whole video on this. It's actually type swap with Garchomp EX, which I think is pretty neat. Garchomp is normally fighting, but
Okay.
then has a water card, and then this is normally water, but has a fighting card, which I think is kind of fun, and they're very popular Pokemon as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pleased to. Yeah, I think it's a good card. it's an interesting card. It'll see some play. I don't, how good time will tell.
Yeah. But now we have some more cards to move on to the other Japanese set, which is the what set it? Mask of Change. There we go. So this has
Right.
the Loyal Three, which are Pokemon that I thought the two of them were monkeys, but apparently one's a dog. I think. I mean, it does have dog in the name, but I thought it was a monkey.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, the
anyways,
Okie Doggy or
yeah, I think
Doji.
it's
Yeah.
Okidogi. Yeah, I thought it was a like a gorilla or something, but I don't think that's right. So, for some reason. Anyway, so I don't think we need to talk about Sinestro. You don't want to talk about it, probably.
No, I don't think it was particularly. I mean, it has some interest, but I don't think it's gonna be overly strong.
Yeah. So, and there's also Sinestro EX revealed, which is
Right.
same thing. Not insane. But you wanted to talk about Munkidori. You said you thought that was the best one, or I don't know, it's the one that you thought was the most interesting. You said it's the one you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, Monkey Dory. So psychic 110 HP, basic Pokemon. It's got an ability Adrenaline Brain. Well, the attack first is psychic colorless. It does 60 damage, and your opponent's active Pokemon is confused. Confusion, it's a plus. It's not the greatest thing in the world, but it's a plus. But then the ability Adrenaline Drain. Once during your turn, its Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, and of course, it doesn't naturally want dark energy, so they're kind of forcing you to do that. But that's kind of what these cards are about anyway. You can move up to 3 damage counters from one of your Pokemon to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So I like that, and you can do it stacks in a sense, right? You can have multiple in play, and so you can move up to 12 damage counters. That would be from the potential, and then they could be from different Pokemon too, if they're from different Munkidoris. So I think putting some decks to kind of help do a little bit of healing, get the damage to knock things out, setting things up. I like, I think it opens up some options that I think will, I think it'll see some play in some decks, or at least some things to play around with, try to make some things work.
Yeah. What decks are you thinking of that you do it with?
I mean, part of it. Well, look, the damage is on your Pokemon, right? So either you have a tanky attacker, which those options are out there. So you're healing it up some, as well as hopefully, but the healing amount is pretty low, right? So you're more in a case of trying to knock out your opponent things, and it goes to any of them. So it keeps your opponent from hiding on the bench, which is I think a big part of it, right? You move it onto the bench and bench Pokemon they're trying to avoid. The other thing is if you use what Dodrio that puts a Pokemon that put damage onto themselves. Maybe Gardevoir also, right? With the you heal up, so you can get more damage onto things,
Yeah.
more
And
energy.
energy. Yeah. And
Yeah,
I,
more
I heard a
energy. I
lot of
mean,
people saying this in Gardevoir. It's kind of weird because it's darkness energy. You could play it with
yeah,
Luminous, but I mean, Luminous energy won't do. It's not a basic energy, so you can't use it with Gardevoir. I don't actually remember if Gardevoir has to be basic, but it does
I
essentially because
think
special energies aren't psychic energies in the discard. I know that much. So um
right.
or generally. Anyway, special entities have weird rulings. So yeah, and then the Dodrio thing is kind of cool. Dodrio's weird. So for those of you who don't know, it's a stage one. Its ability puts a damage counter on it and draws one card, so you can
Yeah,
heal yourself up and you can like get damage in play. But then your attack does more for each damage counter on it.
right.
It's kind of weird and kind of cool. There's also a Steelix which damages yourself, so that's kind of fun. And then Pheasantipity we need to talk about as well, specifically on the Gardevoir
Hmm.
aspect. And so it has its ability Adrenaline Pheromones if this Pokemon has any Darkness energy attached to it, and so all three of them have an ability if they have Darkness energy.
Yeah,
Um, but then the two attacking ones, the other two are attacking, don't have any colorless energy in the attack cost, so it's kind of weird. But Pheasantipity here, if it has a Darkness energy attached, if any damage is done to this Pokemon by attack, flip a coin if heads prevent that damage.
right.
Oh, and is there anything that does damage that's not an attack? I was just wondering about that.
Uh, if any damage done by an attack,
I mean, there are
I
like
don't
abilities that do
think.
damage counters, but
Right, they place damage and
yeah.
stuff, but they don't do damage, right? So I assume not. Now this is a translation, so did they get the phrasing exactly
Yeah,
right?
I think so. I think that's usually what it says.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. Obviously, if someone listening has a way to do damage without being an attack, let us know because we're curious about that.
Yeah. But then the attack here is interesting. So obviously immunity on a coin flip is interesting. But then the attack
Yeah.
here, Energy Feathers, does 30 for each energy attached to this Pokemon, can be Psychic or like Darkness or whatever. And so the idea is obviously this is an attacker within Gardevoir EX. There is a Mawile. Let me find it. If you're not like watching visually, oh, I'm in the wrong language. I'm in a lot of languages. Okay, we found it. So it has 100 HP and it has essentially the same attack. It's for each Psychic Energy, and that hasn't
Hmm.
seen essentially any play. Um, Let me check. But yeah. So do you think this will be good enough as an attacker in? Okay, yeah, seen essentially no play. Do you think it's good enough as an attacker in Gardevoir?
I so it's 30 damage for each energy attached. It's a single prize. It could take out to it has to be on this Pokemon which I don't love, but you accelerate them back the following turn. It may survive on the coin flip side. It'll see some play, I think, because of the ability, right?
Yeah,
You
and then I think you play the Munkidori, and I think you play them both together in Gardevoir, because you get the healing and like moving damage, and you also have the immunity.
right, right. They want the darkness energy, so you probably you drop both of those in that deck. I imagine. I don't think it's going to be great, but it's certainly worth exploring in Gardevoir.
Yeah. But anyway, I don't think either of us play Gardevoir that much, but we do like, specifically, you do like single prize fighting decks. And
Yes.
there's this Ogie here that I don't know, you didn't seem too impressed, or at least you didn't really. Have you looked at this card?
I did look at it. It's intriguing. I just think it has problems, is
Yeah.
what I'll say. But
Tell me about it and why you're not a believer in it.
all right, so 130 HP basic, that's fine. It does the Oki Punchy. What a name they got there, if that's correct. It does 70 damage for two fighting. That is highly underwhelming, right?
It's not terrible,
Um,
but it's not good.
it's not great. But then if this Pokemon has any darkness energy attached to it, it gets a plus 100 HP, so it goes to 230 on a single prize. That's very nice. And the attacks do 100 more, so also I'm doing 170. So those are both appealing, I will say. The problem, first off, I have to get the darkness energy attached, and if I'm playing this probably in some type of a fighting based deck, getting the darkness energy onto it's probably gonna be awkward. So now I need three energies on it to attack. That's not great. Okay, I will say.
Yeah, I
And
think.
then
And then so what else? Sorry, what were you gonna say?
and then the other problem is the damage number 170 is nice, but it's not one-shotting most things still.
Yeah, most multi prices.
Multi-price.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think it's kind of interesting here. You can pay it with Luminous energy, so Luminous will give you both the darkness and the fighting, which is pretty useful. Then you need the either fighting on, but there is the combo of which I have not seen anyone play so far, or at least I haven't played against it or heard it talked about much. It's Cryptomaniac's Deciphering, letting you stack your deck with any card on top, and then you can also play fight no Gutsy Pickaxe, and then you can like put the card
Yeah.
back on top, which is
Mhm.
pretty I don't know. That's an interesting concept. And then you can actually attack this turn one. Because obviously just the raw stat line of 130 HP, or sorry, 230 HP, 170 damage for two's good.
It is. Now to get three energy on one turn isn't easy though, I will say. Right? And Gutsy Pickaxe only accelerates to the bench too, so you've got to get a switch happening as well.
Yeah.
Look, it's the type of thing that I like to mess around with. I just, as I'm looking, I think the way it's structured, I think it's just going to come up short, and I think it's going to be tough to get even a moderately successful deck with this Pokemon.
Yeah. Wait, is there something in front of you? Did you leave? Um,
What's that?
did you leave? Your voice sounds different. Did you leave? Are you all the way
Oh,
back?
well, I'm sorry. Hang on. Okay, sorry.
There we go.
I slid the mic away. Thank you for picking that up. So yeah, yeah.
You're back.
Yeah, so I just don't think it's going to be great. I think making it work is it's going to come up short. And the fact that you can't one shot a basic EX or V means it's not going to be worth the bother, right? If it needs to get to 220 with these amount of shenanigans to probably make it viable.
Yeah. Oh, and also, okay, you do have maximum belt though. Um,
You
So
do.
that, but then and then the one thing I also don't love is it doesn't one shot Squawkabilly EX, which is very commonly played and low HP, but it resists fighting.
Oh, it resists. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, because there's not many things you one shot, two prizes that you can one shot
yeah,
at one step
yeah.
with
There's like Regieleki,
170.
Lumineon, um, that's it. Or not Regi in
Yeah.
Rhydon. Rhydon's what I meant to say. But yeah,
Okay.
Regieleki and a few things. So I think that's for these Pokemon, but you wanted to talk about these supporters as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think they're interesting. Let me ask you, you don't think bug catching set's any good, do you? Look at the top
Um,
7 cards in your deck. It's an item. You choose up to 2 combination of grass Pokemon or grass energies, put them into your hand, shuffle the rest back in.
no, I don't think it's particularly good. Obviously, like if we had Cherim, it could be good. I mean, I could see situations in which this could be good, but Grass
Mhm.
has been pretty bad. It's I don't know. I don't know how good it's going to be in this. I haven't played Torterra yet. It could be good in Torterra EX, I guess, but it doesn't look that good. It's a little. It's like kind of like Great Ball, but a little worse because it's just grass.
Yeah, no, I agree. But there's Carmine and there's Kieran. So Carmine, both supporters. You can use this. You discard your hand, draw 5. So that's obviously a significantly nerfed Professor's Research, which isn't good. But what makes it interesting is you go first. You can play this on your first turn. So I think it's pretty interesting. Now, are you going to have it? You don't really have any way to draw any good draw cards on your first turn, right? Outside of maybe a Pokegear 3.0, which you have to draw in. So having it consistent, you're not going to have it consistently, but it is a nice option, and I think it's kind of fun.
I guess, yeah. And you can Lumineon V for it, and that's like kind of good. Um, so you played what was it? Was it Talonflame V? Was that
Yeah,
discard draw 6?
I don't remember now if it was
I'm
5 or
gonna pull it
6.
up. Okay, yeah, it was 6. Okay, so it was discard. I wasn't sure if it was discard. So that you
Yeah.
could use as an attack. We have Squawkabilly EX. And those, well, Talonflame B wasn't that good, but it was also a little underplayed in my opinion.
Hmm.
It was a pretty like versatile Pokemon. But this is interesting. I don't know how useful it is because obviously you're never going to be attacking, and you probably don't want to.
Right.
I don't think you want to run more than like one copy of it. I think you could run it in decks that play lots of Luminions, but I don't know.
Right. It's for a deck that wants to turbo stuff in the discard pile, right? That's what it's there for. So does it go in the single prize Roaring Moon deck? Something like that you just so now on your second turn, you can do big damage. You do this and then you squawk ability and you've gotten rid of like, half your deck on your first turn. It's that kind of thing, right? That's what it's built for. You know,
Yeah.
so I don't know, but it's interesting, right? I think it's just something to keep in mind. It'll see some people will be trying it out in some decks.
Yeah. Um, someone also said, and they commented on my video, said they think it's very good in Lugia, and I guess I could see that.
Yeah.
I know I do think research is like better, but I do see the value in this. And then Kieran here is this other supporter. It's one of the supporters that lets you choose one of 2 options, which is pretty interesting, I guess. So
It's a switch card. It's a basic switch card on a supporter. What more could you ask
yeah.
for, right?
And then also, or you could do 30 more to your opponent's active EX or Vs. First of all, the switch thing, if your opponent is item locking you, which is a thing, I guess. I mean, it is. I haven't seen it yet, which is good. I'll probably make a video on it. And
Right,
then,
with a new supporter, right?
yeah, you can item lock turn 1 going second relatively consistently. But this is
Yeah.
not an item, so you can play it. Um,
And the other thing with the switch card is that, obviously Snorlax, Mawile, especially Snorlax is a real thing, getting something stuck. So having another switch option or a couple switch options isn't a bad thing these days either.
yeah, and it can't be disrupted by Airy or Misfortune Sisters. If you need to Pal Pad it back, that can be disrupted, but Kieran
Yeah.
itself won't be disrupted, or at least not in the same level that something like the regular Switch would be.
Yeah. But then the second part, right? You have the option. You can your Pokemon does 30 more damage to the EX or Vs. That's useful too, right? I mean, something that does that, we'll see some play. So, again, on a supporter, that it's underwhelming. Either certainly switching out of a supporter is pretty terrible, and even 30 more damage to only some Pokemon on a supporter, I'm not loving. But I think because of the number of decks that are trying to get something stuck in the active, having the double option, I think it'll see some play.
Yeah, I guess I get that. Because of Snorlax, I don't think it's terrible. You'd honestly probably play this in Charizard. Well, Charizard has different tech options for Snorlax, anyways. Um,
Hmm.
but I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and 30, but you don't have to be behind in prizes. So, right, like Defiance
Yeah,
Band.
yeah,
So it has some value there, is what I'll say.
yeah. Um,
Um, Go ahead.
and then I think that's it for these cards, right? There's the English revealed cards as well,
Right. Well, then the other right there's the ogres, right, which are also from Mask of
which are
Change,
in yeah, but revealed in English.
revealed in English. Correct. Yeah. Right. That's the other thing to talk about, and this is kind of what the set is named after. These masks. You have the teal mask, the what's it, Hearthflame mask, Wellspring mask, and the Cornerstone mask, Ogerpon EX. And then there's a single prize Ogerpon, and then there's an
Yeah,
Ogre's
well, actually, it's a
mask
teal
item.
mask Ogerpon. So we might actually see 8 Ogerpons in the set.
Okay, so we have a grass, a fire, a water, and a fighting EX. We may see all four types for the single prize as well.
Yeah, because it's not just an Ogerpon; it's a teal mask
That
Ogerpon. Um,
that's true.
but anyway,
The
so
teal, I mean, the teal mask, the single prize one's not all that exciting looking at the moment. So, right, we want to talk about the EXs and the item.
yeah, but and one thing I kind of thought these cards were fake when they were first revealed. You're struggling to read them. That is because the text is squished together. For some of them, for actually yeah, for all of them. But like this Hearthflame Mask Ogerpon EX, it is very squished. The O is around like 2/3 of the size that it should be. I think maybe like half.
Okay.
I mean, you can notice the squished, right? If you're um
Oh,
um
just because the name of the Pokemon's so long, right?
yeah, it's really like I thought these were fake. Because it looks it's not a good look. It's not like terrible or anything, but it's kind of weird.
Yeah, I hadn't noticed that, but yeah, seeing on the screen, with the EXs, and when you see the just the teal mask Ogerpon, partly it's a little shorter name and it doesn't have the EX symbol. It looks much happier.
Yeah. But anyway, so the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX is the grass one, and it's the main one. Its
Yeah,
ability here. Oh, and they're all Terra type as well. I'll say that. So they're immune to bench damage. EA. It doesn't matter. They're all the same type energy as they are like type, but their attacks are the same type as their actual type. But anyway, Teal Dance on the grass one. It says, and these are all different names, which will mean you can play like you can play 16. But Teal Dancer, once during your turn, you may attach a basic grass energy from your card from your hand to this Pokemon. If you do, draw one card. And then you have an attack
right.
here, Myriad Leaf Shower. For 3 grass energy, it does 30 for each energy attached to both active Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean the attack is kind of underwhelming,
Yeah.
I will
One shot
say.
Charizard and Roaring Moon.
Does
And
it
uh,
30?
if they have 2
Let's,
energies, yeah.
if you have three and they have two, yeah, a fully powered up Charizard you one shot, but that getting three energy on the attack, it's the ability is the bigger part of it, right? The teal dance, the energy acceleration, because this is how you're powering up your other attackers as well.
Yeah. And but for powering this one up, you can like accelerate to this one in this ability and then attach and then use another one and energy switch over.
Yeah, and you have the ogre's mask, right?
Yeah, that won't work. I mean, yes, not for powering this one up. So, we'll talk about that. So you want to say what Ogre's Mask does?
So ogre's mask, because this is kind of part of how the set comes together, and it does show the four Pokemon types, so that
Yeah, or
there's
the
not going to be any
masks, not the
the four
Pokemon.
masks. I'm sorry, which relate to types, right? So
Yeah,
there's not going to be any other ogre mask EXs, I don't think,
yeah,
right?
yeah. These are all the ones in the video game as well.
So choose a Pokemon EX in your discard pile that has Ogerpon in its name, which is so it doesn't work with the single prize Ogerpon, which makes those significantly worse than they could have been. You switch that one from the discard with one of your Pokemon EX in play that has Ogerpon in its name. And any attached cards, damage counter, special conditions, turns in play, and other effects remain on the new Pokemon. So you're getting the accelerating the grass energy to the grass Ogerpon, and then you're switching out once it's powered up to a different Ogerpon of the type you want to attack with, right? I think that's the way this deck is built,
Yeah,
or the way this set's built.
the one ruling question I have, I think I know the answer, but I could be wrong, is if you switch a grass one into another grass one, if you can reaccelerate like again for a second
Okay.
time. I don't think so. I think it's an effect on the Pokemon that you've used the ability, or I know it is, and I believe that will be kept on it, so you can't use it again.
Because it's still this Pokemon, even though it's physically a different card, it's
Yeah,
still the same Pokemon as far as the game's concerned.
yeah. And also
Okay.
for those of you who, some of you may have recognized this card as Thornton, which is essentially the same. It's a supporter. It works for any basic Pokemon. It's kind of fun, and it's essentially the same as this, but obviously it's a supporter, which is worse.
Right. As an item, it's much better. Obviously, to make it fair, right? They made it limited to the Ogerpons, right? It'd be too good as an item if it worked for anything. Um, so we have the three other attackers, right? And for two of them at least, they're only one of their type of energy plus colorless type. So they work very nicely with the teal mask for the powering up.
Yeah. Which one do you want to talk about first, though?
Why don't we talk about the water one? I don't know that it really matters, does
No,
it to
probably
you?
not.
So Wellspring Ogerpon EX 210 HP again, two attacks. Sob does 20 for one colorless, and the defending Pokemon can't retreat. I think you're hoping not to use that
Yeah.
attack.
Oh, see, I was thinking,
Oh, you have a different thought?
well, because you can attach a double turbo and then you're not doing any damage. Oh, and by the way, double turbo, if once your get damage goes to zero, even if you buff it up again, it'll still be zero. That's the thing. Anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked, but I play control. So yeah, you can put this in
Uh,
control. Obviously, there's no
okay.
reason to put it above Mawile right now. It's like worse, but once that rotates, or I mean, it's different, right? You can, if your
Well,
opponent is like if you're using this, you can now switch to a control style approach at like any given point and just attack and trap something.
yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. I like Mawile as an option in other decks, right? You can switch to a stall tactic, and now in an Ogre Pond deck, then it gives us that option to go stall. You're probably not. I mean, maybe you're playing the double turbo to help power it up. I'm not certain,
Yeah,
but
probably
even
not. But
right, but just doing 20 damage a turn, you have a lot of turns where you're knocking something out. So
it depends. I mean, if you're trying to trap like a Bidoof, you don't have that many turns.
mm, that I mean that's true. That's true. We do have the Radiant Alakazam, right, to move the energy
No,
off,
that
which
moves damage. You mean damage from? But no, that's your Pokemon.
oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So, it's an interesting option there. But then the big attack to me is the Torrential Pump does 100 damage for three. Colorless, which is probably the grass because you got them there with the teal mask. Could be a DTE. But then it does 100. You may shuffle three energies attached to this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, it's not up to three. It has to be three. Then it does 120 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. So hitting benched at the 120 number, it's a nice option to have.
Yeah, and I've heard a lot of talk about this card, or not that much. I've heard some talk about this card, and you can just put it in Excalibur decks, and it's pretty good. We talked about
Yeah.
Radiant Greninja, we talked about Greninja EX, and it's essentially better than them. It's a little less versatile because you can
Hmm.
only hit one benched, but it's still pretty good. 120 snipe, as you said, really great. 100 to the active is pretty good, and also you get the
Yeah.
energy, shuffle them back into your deck, which is nice because you can just reaccelerate them again, hopefully.
Hmm. Yeah. Why don't you talk about the fighting one for a second, okay? And I
Yeah.
will rejoin you
Yeah,
momentarily.
as you disappear into the abyss. So,
Yes.
Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon EX that is kind of good. It's actually very good. It's um, it's kind of broken. So its ability here is prevent all effects. Again, 210 HP, one retreat. I guess I'll talk about its attack first. Actually, it's just demolish, fighting colors. It does 140. This attack isn't affected by weakness or resistance or any other effects on your opponent's active. No weakness is a bit of an annoyance because Lugia is no, sorry, because of Arceus is very good, but Lugia is also very good, and that resists it. So now you are two-shotting them despite resistance because you ignore it. And then more importantly, with this, you hit through effects of like Mimikyu. And Mimikyu can be a bit of a pain to deal with, especially when you look at this ability, prevent effects of attack or prevent damage from attacks done to this
Yep.
Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. but it does not wall off something like Mimikyu, but you can hit through Mimikyu. So we've seen a Alolan Vulpix V-Star, and that's been pretty good.
Mhm.
And this is like it, but I think it's a little bit. I mean, it's a basic, so it's probably better.
Yeah. I mean, look, Vulpix is good, and I like it in part because it sets up with Arceus, right? This is obviously it sets up with the Teal Mask. Having Arceus set up another V, I think, is better than the whole Teal Mask switching with your Ogre's Mask deal. So that's an advantage of Vulpix, but it is a basic. Um, yeah, so Path of the Peaks out of format, which actually is good for this, right? Because EXs can't turn off their ability, which at times would hurt the Alolan Vulpix.
Yeah, or you
Yeah, and
can't
hitting
turn this
through
ability off either.
that's because this is an ability. The other was an effect of an attack,
Yeah,
so it's a little different. But which means you don't have to have attacked, or because with Alolan Vulpix they could gust it up to get around that situation here. That doesn't work. And having an option to hit through effects is important as well. I like because this is they making this as a box style deck option and having one and they're all rule box Pokemon, so having something that's not the hit that Mimic doesn't lose to Mimikyu is important too.
yeah. Also, I think a lot of them are playable in other decks, like, or not the grass one. The grass one's kind of the deck, but the other ones can all be played in other decks and might actually be best in other decks. And this one, I think you can put in a lot of decks. We've seen Mimikyu in a wide variety of decks, including
Yeah.
Control as a stall option within like Snorlax, and so then you can wall something. This can also do that. Do you think do you think walling abilities is better or worse than walling EXs and Vs?
Um. Wow. That's a good question. They're different. I mean, obviously you want both, right? Ideally, if you have a deck that can do both, it's a nice thing. So it just depends. Right now abilities might be better because there are like the single prize, especially ancient futures and stuff. So
Yeah, but like
yeah,
those don't have not all of them. A bunch of them actually don't have abilities. So
that's true. So it doesn't help at all with a bunch of that.
yeah, I mean, I guess Fluttermane does. I don't know, most don't, but some do. And then also, wait, no, Fluttermane turns off abilities, so that doesn't matter. I don't know. Some do, I guess. I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Right.
Uh,
What you want right now if you're trying to wall, the big things is abilities to wall off, rule box, or EXs and Vs, and basic Pokemon. If you hit those, you've got most things covered, right? There are some, if there's not going to be a lot of things that you are going to hit through.
yeah, keep in mind there are still things like Giratina V that will just hit through everything. Um,
Yes.
And so that is like a thing that it's a little annoying, but Guillotine V's attack is 160 for 3. It's not super easy to, it's not that hard to power up. It's also not super powerful. So that's like fine. I do think this in like a
Right.
deck like Alakazam EX, where you like sit behind it and wall, it could be
Mm,
decent. As you said, with Mimikyu and potentially some other Pokemon like that are in the active. There are a lot.
right.
And then I think you
Yeah, I
could
had
put.
thought I like that. I hadn't thought of that in like the Alakazam deck. Um, uh, because obviously you can't use Alolan Vulpix in that because that's an effect of an attack. Here it's just an ability.
Yeah, and also same thing with like hit and run. Hit and run's not particularly good right now, but
Right.
or actually it might be. I don't know. It's not particularly. It's not seeing a lot of play at the very least. But you could obviously use hit and run with this, and that's pretty good because now you're. It's a really great wall, and also its HP is pretty. It's like not massive, but compared to Mimikyu, it's pretty massive. So you can survive
Right.
hits from like you said there are single prizes like the single prize Roaring Moon, Koraidon, Miraidon. You're going to live hits from them, which is good.
Right. I mean, maybe one way they kind of intended the deck is you have this to hide behind while you're getting things set up with the Teal Mask, because Teal Mask is still at least 2 turns with the ability plus one manual attachment. So it's 2 turns for any of these things can
Yeah.
really attack.
I do think you might Luminous, or you might Energy Switch, and I think you also do it with Luminous, but I think you could Energy Switch
Hmm.
to power things up on turn 1. It's a little awkward, obviously. It's kind of like Roaring Moon EX, which is again kind of awkward but then you had Dark Patch, so it's similar, but it's not the same.
Right. I guess with this deck, just the single prize teal mask. If you're going second, you probably want to use the attack where you search for 2 grass energies, put them to hand your first turn because you have to have the energies in hand, right?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
to,
yeah.
to
I mean,
do
I
it.
don't know if you necessarily play this. I think there are better cards.
There are, but the one difficulty to something like this, or it was the problem like with Zatu, which it draws you 2 cards, right? You have to have or Shadow Rider, you have to have the energy in hand, and then we don't have the energy in hand, right? The deck just doesn't do anything. So
Yeah,
that will be a concern with
yeah.
it.
We do have like superior energy retrieval and regular energy retrieval and earthen vessel though, so I don't think it's a massive
Yeah,
issue. And it's a basic. Those were a lot. Wait, what do you say? Do you say it's Shadow Rider and what else?
and the Zatu
Zatu? Oh, okay,
engine,
yeah. So those are both evolutions, essentially stage ones. So you
right?
need to prioritize getting the Pokemon in play and then also the energy. And now you have all these like moving pieces
Hmm.
in just setting yourself up, and so then you're still kind of like
Yeah,
waiting.
yeah. Although, look, if you're going with the Ogerpon box, which is obviously one way it's good, probably it's the way it's intended to be. Obviously, like you said, we can slot these in other decks, which I think is really good. They're all EXs, so having one single prizer, it doesn't hurt. You don't lose the game any quicker when they knock out your single prizer. So using that for one turn is not a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, and then the last one here is probably the most interesting. I think you said two of the three or three of the four have attacks that only have one type that's not grass, or one
Right.
energy that's not grass. But the other one, the last one is Hearthflame Mask Ogerpon EX, the longest one, I think, the longest
Yeah.
name, but same stats. It's fire now, but Wrathful Hearth for fire color, so same types or same essentially cost. It's one fire instead of like a water or fighting, but it does 20 for
Right.
each damage counter on this, which is okay. And then the better attack is Dynamic Blaze. If your opponent's active evolution or active Pokemon is an evolution, you do 280 and discard all energy from this Pokemon. If it's
Right.
not, you do 140. I don't think you discard the energy. Yeah, you don't. But yeah, so that's obviously for 3 fire that you will not be powering that up with the grass energy.
No, right. I mean, the obvious solution is you put it in your Charizard EX deck to get the fire energies on. The question then is it really better than all your other options, which with like Charizard
Yeah,
EX,
I think
right?
it's good. Like turn two, or yeah, I guess you know powering it up turn one. You do have Magma Basin, but that's not really getting that's one
Right.
energy. So yeah, you're not really
Right.
getting the
Still
third
two
one.
turns, at least to get it set up with Magma Basin. Um, so and I don't think that it's not a deck that wants Magma Basin, right?
No,
In
not
the
this
ogre.
one. Uh,
So the energy, like I said, I think Charizard EX is the obviously is the strongest solution, right? But I just don't feel like that's what I think I probably would pick some other fire
yeah,
Pokemon
like
in the
Gouging
deck.
Fire EX or something, which is 260, which is a little less. 280 is a good number because it does one
Right.
shot. We were talking about Lugia V Star, Arceus V Star, and all these different things, and so it's good. Like it's okay, it's pretty decent for that. But then the first attack doing 20 for each damage count on this Pokemon. Would you even play this in the Ogerpon box?
Right, because your opponent, if you're only relying on the first attack and your opponent knows it, they're just not going to attack into it, right?
I get. I mean,
Because you're
they
just
can't just not attack the whole game though. But yeah, it can.
no,
I mean, it will deter
but
them as well, which is nice.
right, but unless you have Magma Base and to get some damage on it, you're doing 0 damage, right? Until you've been hit into.
Yeah,
So your
well, I think the
opponent can
idea is you
just
get hit into, and then you use the mask, and then you're taking the hopefully a big one shot in a way that you can. Because this is the, I mean,
yeah.
there's a mirrored leaf shower which can do big damage, but only if both actives have a lot. Um, so this is
Hmm.
like the big attack, I guess. Because if they hit into you for like,
If they do
I,
200, you're doing 400 back.
yeah, and so like there are definitely decks that are gonna hit, um, like 100 and something, and then you're hitting
Right.
enough to one shot. You're hitting in the 200s, which you can't really hit super easily any other way.
Right. So you probably, I mean, I would think in the Ogerpon box deck, you probably have one copy of this.
Yeah.
I'm guessing because you never want it in play itself. You're only going to use Ogre's Mask to do it. Um, right. And the nice thing is well, you have to have attach the fire, but you already have at least 2 other energies, assuming because you attack the other turn. So you just
Yeah, I
need
mean, and
to.
it's probably luminous grass, right? That's
I
what I
I
think.
think so. I assume you're going to play 4 Luminous in the deck, and you may play a one or two, and you might play a little water or fighting as well potentially.
Maybe. I feel like you want at least 8 grass though, because you want it's also your draw. It's not exactly your draw engine, but it's you want to be constantly attaching as much grass energy as you can every
True.
single turn, which is like 3 or so, maybe 2 to 3 every single turn. And
Yeah.
obviously
So
then it's like you need a bunch of grass energy.
yeah. You see, now I'm getting very nervous when you talk about this, just because you're going to have your 4 Luminous energy, um, and you can't recover those. So and if you have to discard with your supporters or whatever, your trainers, you just might not be able to attack with the cards you want the course of the game.
Yeah, I'm also nervous. Like, what happens? I think you might run out of Ogre's Mask if you have to like discard them, or if you like don't have them at the right time. And so
Yeah.
it seems kind
What?
of that seems kind of scary.
Yeah. Now, what's the item recovery right now in the
There's
game?
Silene, and oh, there's
Yeah.
Darkrai V-Star as well. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh,
I
there's
mean, I
it's your
don't think
favorite Pokemon,
you're.
Regidrago V-Star.
I do like that. I do. Again, none of those have synergy with this deck, right? I mean, obviously you could put Silene in, but Silene's not. I don't think you want it in a deck like this.
No, I would not. Well, actually, I might.
Rose,
I don't know. You could also put in a Thorian, which is just like an Ogre's Mask. It's a supporter, as you
right?
said, but it is just going to function the same way. Or actually, oh no, I didn't even. You could Thorian into like some other Pokemon as well. Um, or you could do it into
Y-
the Bramblin and then evolve into Bramblegast, which I was playing.
y- y- Okay, is that the Bramblegast is a stage one?
Yeah, it's the one where you like flip like a bunch of coins and like get a lot of HP. It's not very good. It's kind of weird. It's silly. But there are lots of Pokemon you could switch into. I don't think that's a great idea. That seems kind of bad, but
Right, because it's just one grass per turn, so
yeah.
it's not enough acceleration to make it work. The other thought I thought is I think of really bad ideas is do I just go with a grass deck with the Teal Mask Ogerpon and I powered up my old friend Fortress EX. Right now I'm doing big damage.
It is
You
big
gotta
game.
love it,
Or you could just do a bunch of teal. You could just have 4 Teal Mask Ogerpon EX in none of the other types and
right?
no Ogre's Mask. And then you just like get a lot of grass energy in play. Every turn
Uh,
you use 4 Teal Dance. Um, and that's it.
oh, then we have that. There's the Grass EX, right? That does based on grass in the discard pile,
Oh yeah, the
which,
Sinestro EX that we didn't talk about because it
you
was
said was
bad.
terrible,
And you
right?
also
So,
didn't really object.
no, but now we have a use for it.
But it's if you have a bunch of grass in the discard.
Well, because if I'm playing for the teal mass, I'm playing like a whole lot of grass energy in this deck. Then, right? I'm
Yeah.
just chucking it full of grass energy, so it barely functions. But so now I have a stage one, and of course, if I play Thornton, I can switch into this at will. So for one grass, it does. I put 2 damage counters on one of my opponent's Pokemon, so I can hit the bench. And it's an evolution, so even the Jirachi doesn't stop it.
Yeah. The
For
new
each grass
Relar will
energy,
though.
yeah, okay, but so for each grass energy in a discard pile, I'm playing like when I played the Miraidon EX deck, I found it really worked well with Electric Drain if I played like 16 energies.
Yeah.
So I this is a deck that I need to hit these energies. I need to accelerate up like three. I want to accelerate like 3 energies a turn, right? So I might be
Yeah.
dropping
Maybe
in
4.
16
I
energies
think
here.
4. You wanna with this build.
So I might need more than 16 energies. I might need 20 energies now.
But then you don't have room for the Sinestro. So
I just need a Thornton, and I'm just saying. I'm just saying, right? You're not loving the idea.
I don't know. I like the idea. I kind of like the idea of like just for this and maybe a few other like Pokemon, and then you go ahead and you just attack with this and just
It,
attack
it
a lot, and then hopefully you get big damage. Like turn one, you accelerate 4 energy and attach one, and then energy switch, and you're hitting 120 or 150 or whatever, and then next turn you accelerate 4 more energy, and so
yeah.
you have 10 energy in play turn two. Um,
It, look,
and then the turn after that you accelerate 4 more. So now and then you go Dina's bigger. You can get like you can get 7 energy in play every single turn. So by turn three you'll have 21 energy in play.
And I think you've decked out too the following turn, right?
Yeah,
Because don't forget
probably.
you're accelerating all these, and we know how good Gardenia's Vigor is. So
Yeah. I mean, if you have like 20 any energy in deck, surely you'll have
it'll
energy
work.
when you have Gardenias, right?
Well, I mean, 4 Gardenias in this deck might be the way to go. Look,
Yeah,
if
I think we've cracked it.
well, you've gone over the top, but the way if it was to be viable, right? There's a lot of Charizard, right? I don't think that's dropping. So
No.
if Charizard's like 15, you might run into 20% Charizard decks on the ladder anyway, right? That's not crazy. If on turn 2 you can one shot a Charizard EX most of the time, and it might be possible, then it's viable.
Yeah. Um, wait, turn what, two? You said?
Turn 2, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think
I,
you definitely can do that. Oh, wait, with this build or with like the grouped build?
with just going grass, just the
Yeah,
teal
no, I
mask
mean, yeah,
build.
I think you can beat Charizard if you're well, but then they just one shot you back. So, um, yeah, I'm not entirely sure, but
So it's an interesting box set. I like box decks. To me, it's always a little disappointing when they make a deck that is a deck in the set already because it's more fun to kind of figure out the deck myself. I will say rather
yeah,
than saying here's the package, play this, right?
I
Um,
guess. But I think people like those decks, and we like them. Like you look
yeah,
at Mad Party and United Wings and Reggie's and all these things, and they're cool. Um, I think BV Max has just left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. But I
that's
feel
true.
like
Look,
decks like a Rapid Strike was a cool deck. It wasn't just one deck, but it was kind of one deck, and I think these cards look cool. Yeah, and I can play
yeah,
control with it.
yeah, because right, we have the option to sob at any time and make your opponent sob, I guess is what it does there. So yeah, and maybe they'll print some other single prize Ogerpons to give some other options, and maybe they'll print something to help us get back Ogre masks or something, which would be nice as well.
Yeah. But anyway, I think these are cool cards. I think that's all for today's video. Temple Forces is cool, but this next set also looks really cool, and it's releasing in 2 months. Is it 2 months?
Yeah, it's 2 months
Yeah.
again, so like you didn't put a lot of time in live this last time. For the last expansion. So you didn't get the tier 50. I think you need to make sure you get the tier 50 because only 2 months, because there's a lot of cards you want from Temporal Forces, I got to assume. And there's going to be a lot of cards we're probably going to want from Twilight Masquerade as well. So getting you have 2 months, make sure you get to tier 50. I think you'll be sad if you don't this time.
Yeah, but I think I'll get there. And I think that's all for today's video. If you watch this on YouTube, like the video, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check us out on YouTube on youtube.com/@uncommonfossil. Wait, is that what it is for you? Uh,
YouTube, yeah, add Uncommon Fossil with 1M.
Yep, and at 10 types. I don't think anyone probably types in the link, but and then also we are on podcasting platforms as well. If you would rather listen to us there, obviously we have video on YouTube of like stuff we're looking at, which can be useful, but also sometimes you just want to listen like with your phone off. I mean, there is what YouTube Premium, is that what it is? But
Yeah,
like,
so you can, right.
but then
But podcast,
podcasting, yeah,
right. Yeah, there's times just listening, and obviously we're trying to make it work both ways for people listening or for people watching. So,
yeah,
so hopefully you found this enjoyable. Let us know your thoughts in the comments on the video, and again, have some fun with the temporal forces, and let's look forward to the new stuff down the road.
yeah. See ya.